Hey guys, if you have one of these Econoline vans, 92 to 96, it might be different past there, I don't really know. But if the armrest is loose and won't work correctly or has fallen off completely, I'm gonna show you how to fix it. If it's just loose and hasn't fallen off yet, you might get away with just tightening it up. To do that, it's pretty easy. The back of the armrest, there's some Velcro, and you just undo that all the way around and then pull it back until you see a hole. And inside that hole is a big Torx bolt. I believe it's a T50. You can try to tighten it up, and if that works, that's great. You may also wanna take the bolt all the way out, put some Loctite on it. That might help as well to keep it from loosening up in the future. But if you go to try to tighten it up and it just spins, we're gonna have to take the seat back off, which is actually not that hard. Also be aware of this little spacer plate between the armrest and the seat frame. The seat I had where the armrest fell completely off, this nut was down inside, and as you can tell, it's supposed to go right there. We can take a look at these other ones, and they just have 3 spot welds all the way around holding it on. However, this frame right here and none of the others has a nice little MIG weld holding that on. I'm almost wondering if it came off at one point and then someone brought it to a shop where they actually welded that on, because none of the others have it. But they should have probably put that weld on there from the factory, because these spot welds aren't really strong enough apparently. If this is just spinning on the inside, the problem you're gonna run into, if you're able to tighten down, is that when you move the armrest up and down multiple times, it might create like a ratcheting effect. So it keeps getting looser like every few times you move it. But we're just gonna have to weld this back on. This one actually right here, I'm not using. It's just gonna be a practice one. And then this one and the one over there, they haven't come off yet, but I'm gonna reinforce them to make sure they don't come off in the future. Besides this one, because that's already good to go on the back. And if you want, you could go ahead and remove this little plastic shield right here. It just pops off. It's kind of hard to see, but it's actually bent out a little bit. So I'll just use a hammer and kind of pound that back in just so it's flat. All right, so I'm not really able to get it to sit flat in here. I've tried all the different ways, but I'll just grind these welds off. All right, that fits pretty good. Also, on a side note, these are, I think, lock nuts. See how they're crimped? And I think that's supposed to keep them from loosening up. However, it didn't work all that well. But I cleaned it all up as well, and then we'll just clean this part up. I just have it held on there with a magnet, and let's do 3 spot welds. All right, there's the 3 spot welds on the outside, and I did a few welds on the inside as well. It's really hard to get in there to make it look good, but that'll work. All right, let's grind those spot welds flat and be sure to wear eye protection. It's all ground down nice and flat. That's why I wanted to put extra welds on the other side, because we're getting rid of a lot of that metal. I totally should have used some anti-spatter spray, because I did get a little ball in there. I'm just gonna clean this out. Let's test fit the armrest, make sure it'll work. So when I tighten it up and I move it, it actually just loosens up. I think I got rid of that clamping force by putting the tap in there. But at least this one's just for practice. The next one, I'm definitely gonna use some anti-spatter spray so I don't get a little ball of metal, molten metal on the threads, because I think that was my problem. Anyways, let's go ahead and try this again. Guys, if you run into the problem where it's too tight and it just loosens up as you move it, you could probably try to kind of sand this area down, and that might help. Or you could sand this spacer down as well. just enough so it has enough tension, but not too much where it loosens the bolt up. And I guess you could always use like red Loctite in there as well. All right guys, on the ones I'm actually using, since the nuts weren't off, I didn't put any tack welds on the outside, but you can see that penetration. Hold those nuts on there for a long time. All right, so I got the armrests on here, and this one's pretty good. Once we put the fabric on there and everything, it'll probably be a lot better, but it's not really loose. However, this one was loose before. It's better than it was, but see, look at that. It's a little bit loose, and the bolt's all the way tight. But I think I know what those little brackets are in between there. They're actually supposed to put like spring pressure on there. So all we gotta do is take that off and then bend it. See if it's flat against where the bolt goes. It's kind of bent out a little bit, and we just need to bend it a little more. Just got it in the vise. Probably don't need a lot, just a little bit. Let's try that. It's much better. It'll definitely break itself in. Much better.